Today, we're going to break down one of the most important documents a country can have, its Constitution. And we're going to be looking at what is, without a doubt, one of the most fascinating and complex examples on the entire planet.
So let's just start with a massive, almost impossible challenge. How in the world do you write a single set of rules for a country with over 1 billion people? We're talking countless languages, different religions, completely unique cultures. I mean, how do you keep all of that from just descending into chaos?
Well, that's where a constitution comes in. It's the ultimate rule book, right? The supreme law of the land that, at least in principle, everyone agrees to follow. At its most basic level, think of it as the foundational agreement. It's that bare minimum set of rules that allows people who might have totally different beliefs and backgrounds to live together, side by side, as one society. And this right here is what gives it its real power. A constitution isn't just some other law. It has what's called special legal sanctity. That means it stands above everything else, no exceptions. This hierarchy is absolutely key. Think of it like a pyramid. At the very top, the peak, you have the Constitution. It's the ultimate boss. Then, a step down, you have the laws made by Parliament. But, and this is crucial, those laws have to obey the Constitution. And then at the bottom, you have the specific rules the government makes to carry out those laws. And guess what? Those rules have to obey both the laws and the Constitution. It all flows downward, and nothing can challenge what's at the top.
Okay, so let's dig a little deeper, because a constitution does so much more than just set out the basic rules. It's really the architectural blueprint for the entire nation. You could say it has 3 massive jobs. First, it literally defines the government. It says who gets to have power and make the laws. Second, it's aspirational. It sets goals, like creating a society with justice and liberty for all. And third, it helps create a shared identity. It's the thing that says, hey, despite all our differences, we're in this together. But out of all its jobs, this might be the most important one, putting limits on the government itself. Because you have to give the state power to do things, right? But you also desperately need a way to make sure that power doesn't get out of control. And this quote just illustrates the point perfectly. A government's power is like a knife. It's a tool. It can be incredibly useful for good things, building schools, paving roads, cutting vegetables. But you have to make absolutely sure it can never be used to harm the very people it's supposed to serve. So, how does a constitution actually do that? How does it design the machinery of government to handle all that power responsibly?
Well, it starts with a big decision: how to slice up power vertically. You can have a unitary system, like in the UK, where pretty much all the power is held by one central government. Or you can have a federal system, like in the US, where power is divided up between the central government and the individual states. Then you have to decide how to separate power horizontally. The American model builds this really strict wall between the person in charge, the president, and the people who make the laws, Congress. But in India's parliamentary system, it's different. The executive branch, so the prime minister and their cabinet, are actually part of the legislature. They're all integrated. Now, because you don't always have that strict separation of powers, constitutions need a really clever backup system to stop any one branch from becoming too powerful, like a tyrant. And this is the famous system of checks and balances. It creates this brilliant cycle of accountability. The courts can look at a law from the legislature and say, nope, that's unconstitutional. But the legislature can turn around and check the executive by, say, removing the government. And then the executive and legislature both get a say in who becomes a judge in the first place. What this does is create this web of interdependence. No single part of the government can go rogue and do whatever it wants. Each one is constantly being watched and held in check by the others. It's the ultimate safety net for the people's rights.
All right, let's put all these pieces together and see how they come to life in the Indian Constitution, which, let me tell you, is truly a one-of-a-kind creation. So to handle its incredible diversity, India didn't just pick a standard federal or unitary model off the shelf. No, its founders created something totally new, something in between. It's called a quasi-federal system. It's a hybrid. It looks and feels federal, but it's designed to have a very, very strong central government. So what does quasi-federal actually look like in practice? Well, get this. In normal times, it's federal. Power is shared between the center and the states. But during a national emergency, the whole system can flip a switch. it can become completely unitary, with the central government taking total control. It's this incredibly adaptable, shape-shifting system. It's why experts call it sui generis, which is just a fancy way of saying there is literally nothing else like it in the world. And that leaves us with this really fascinating question to think about. Is this incredible flexibility, this ability to centralize all power when things get tough, a necessary strength for a country as complex as India? Or does it pose a constant risk to the very federal ideas it was built on? That's the brilliant, unresolved tension at the very heart of India's constitutional experiment.